How can we start to have a better conversation, a more useful, productive conversation about getting some of those Trump voters back without it descending into a fist fight over who cares about racism more, who's a better anti-racist?
I think, those are very important questions, especially with the rise of what we've seen, what I would call neoliberal identity politics, where identities of individuals who are in lockstep with the establishment are weaponized against any argument for working class unity. And I think we have to be very open about these debates. I mean, I'll start by first saying that, of course, there is a current of very, very dangerous far-right and reactionary ideology in America. There is no question about that exists in my home country, India, as well. We've seen the rise of Hindu fundamentalism, extremely dangerous ideas. And we have to be crystal clear, of course, and have a 100% principled approach against sexism, against racism, against xenophobia, against oppression. And what is it, and I would say about myself, how can you be a socialist if you're absolutely not against all kinds of oppression? Because you're fighting for a vision of society that is free of oppression and exploitation. So I think that is precisely why we have to be bold and unabashed about opposing the agenda of the democratic establishment, because the vision that they offer is a few people from people of color communities or immigrant communities will be appointed to important positions. But at the end of the day, they have been appointed there precisely because they are willing to uphold an agenda that is deeply detrimental to the vast majority of oppressed communities. In other words, when the new Democrats, going from Clinton and then down to Obama, attacked funding for public education, attacked welfare, which were the communities the most disproportionately destroyed by those actions? It was the Black community. It was
right.
It was immigrant communities. But it was working class people as a whole.
Right.
So, in other words, not only does the left have the great potential to unite people on a genuine, principled working class basis, fighting, for Medicare for all, fighting against these cuts to public education, it's also true that is necessary because identity is used as an excuse to carry out these deeper and bigger attacks that end up, destroying the same communities that we say we want to protect. I mean, look at Biden's cabinet. I mean, look at whom he appointed as his special advisor on the question of fossil fuels. Cedric Richmond, the biggest recipient of fossil fuel money. He's Black. He's from Louisiana. Yep. His district, he presides over some of the most environmentally affected tracts in the United States.
Yep.
Neera Tundon, she's South Asian American like I am. She has fought viciously against $15 an hour, has been, shoulder to shoulder with Biden in decades of opposition, decades of attempts to cut Social Security benefits.
Right.
So whom are we going to trust? Are we going to trust people who look a certain way, or are we going to put them to a deeper test on political agenda? And that's what working people want. And in fact, I'll tell you this, and I'll end on this. What terrified the ruling class about the George Floyd protest was not only the fact that it was the largest protest movement in U.S. history, which of course is earth-shattering, but it was a genuine multiracial working class solidarity against racism. Cities in states like Idaho, which had never seen anything like a Black Lives Matter protest, had protests where there were only white people who were protesting against racism and against police violence. That's the incredible potential for working class unity. And that is precisely what scares the the ruling class, and that is precisely what the left should be doing.
Yeah, and the media tried to make the existence of predominantly white marches, even if they were in predominantly white cities, some kind of indictment of it, like it's not authentic, or this is like a psyop, like it's somehow, they were arguing that it would undermine the cause, which was incredible.
No, this is very sorry to interrupt you, but this is deliberate. It's part of the very long-standing and systematic divide and conquer strategy that the capitalist system uses, because it needs to. Because if there is working class unity, the legitimacy of their system is more easily threatened, and so it is precisely because of that they will, there's a systematic message in the media, as you said, yeah, exactly, like saying, oh, well, if white people are protesting against racism, that's somehow usurping black territory. And that brought up the question of, oh, who are the genuine protesters, who are allies? And some people have asked me sometimes, and I say, I'm a fighter against racism. And we all have to be fighters against racism, because we all have a stake in fighting for a society that is free of oppression. And look at the different kinds of oppression that exist under capitalism. You and I are both women of color. How many identities are wrapped in this? We cannot make this a competition of identities. We have to make this a question of how we can build the maximum possible solidarity on a principled basis.